I welcome you again to another session on this series on understanding the end times. This particular time we shall be going through global commerce. Again, I want us to pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for granting us this opportunity again to continue. We thank you for that which we've already learned. We don't desire to be like those who continue to learn and never came to the knowledge of the truth. We desire that we will be like the sons of Issachar, who not only understood the times but also knew what they were supposed to do. Grant us the grace to respond to that which we are understanding, so that at the end of these teachings we are wiser people who know how to respond to our world and to your will. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Global commerce, which is one of the sessions that we already introduced when we looked at the fact that Nimrod gathered the whole world together as one, and that the unity of the world together as one, as implied in Genesis chapter 11, was under three main headings, and that is religion, politics, and commerce. Did the Bible give us the impression that the world will operate under one unit in a commercial system? Revelation chapter 13 verse 15 explained, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. The passage that we have just read now is a passage that we know very well. It's a passage that has stirred up so much emotion within the church, a passage that has been interpreted from different backgrounds, a passage that has caused problems even among some sectors, a passage that has stirred up so much sensation. It has to do with the number of the beast. That's the word for this passage, what it has popularly been known for all over the world. The number of the beast, 666. This passage has attracted so much speculations, and people have also cast aspersions on different characters and different people in their effort to identify different people or different systems with the number of the beast. But looking at the passage and trying to get that which we could interpret or that which we could learn from the context of the passage, we got here in verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. The person that had power to give life unto the image of the beast is a living person, and if we looked at the preceding verses, we know that he was talking about the Antichrist. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast, implying again that this image of the beast unto whom life was being given was something that was inert, probably, for it to be given life at this particular time. That the image of the beast should both speak, implying that it was also something by virtue of its previous situation should not have been able to speak, and then it was able now to speak, activated to speak, caused to speak, switched on to speak, made to speak, and caused that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. To say that it was able to do this is talking about being able to monitor, being able to enforce, being able to control that the whole people that did not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And the implication of that word worship here is to succumb to its pattern, to succumb to the system, to bow down to the system, to lean on the system, to depend on whatever that system is going to be. And again he said he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Other versions of the Bible actually say it on their right hand or on their foreheads, but older versions like King James clearly said it is in their right hand or in their forehead. And when we look at the people, the categories of people it was able to cause to take this mark in order to be able to buy and sell, we could see that it involved the entire human sector, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark, so that no man might be able to buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Again, the aim of this control system is such that no man will be able to buy or sell. But what is buying and selling all about? Buying and selling is all about commerce. Many people have argued that it appears that the activity of this particular image of the beast, or what is being implied here in the book of Revelation, has to do with those who are in the trading sector. But it will be good to take note and understand that every activity of human endeavor still goes down to the basics of buying and selling. That with the professionalism that we are gaining in a globalizing world, it still breaks down to buying and selling. It's not just the people that are in the market, it's not just the traders that are carrying things, goods on their heads, it's not just those who are supplying goods and services that are involved in buying and selling. Every single person on earth somehow is involved in buying and selling. The engineer that we are seeing is paid money to render engineering services. He's actually selling the engineering services for the fee that was going to be paid. The medical doctor is selling medical services and he collects a fee for the patient actually made some payments. The teacher and the lecturer is actually selling academic knowledge. He's selling them because fees were paid, out of which he's receiving his earnings. The whole world, the activities of the whole world comes down to buying and selling. Even in our modern world, when we look at the exchange of stocks in the stock market, the right word that is being called, even when it's being mentioned, is the trading on the stock floor. It's all about buying and selling. If we look at international commerce, we look at what is happening all over the world. Is it in terms of oil or gold or other kinds of bonds? It's all buying and selling. So buying and selling is the summary of the entire activities of man towards gaining and towards making wealth. It comes down to buying and selling. And this system was being set such that no man will be able to buy or sell except the person had the mark of the beast, or the number of the beast, or the number of his name. Verse 18 clearly said, "Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast." Let him that has understanding. And it's our belief that in our time, the Lord indeed has given unto man by his grace that mysteries based on the blood of Jesus should be unfolded unto men, so that we'll be able to know what Israel ought to do. And the sons of Issachar had understanding, so we will also have understanding and know what Israel ought to do. For us to be able to trade global commerce, we must first of all be able to trace out the system that is in the world to monitor global commerce. Why so? When we looked at global religion, we were able to point out that the New Age movement is already being prepared as a platform under which every religious system is going to find expression. When we looked at global politics, we saw clearly again that the United Nations will be the platform under which every nation will have an opportunity to express its allegiance to the beast or the Antichrist. Then when we look at the aspect of commerce, what organization do we have in the world today that is positioned to be able to control the commercial interests of the entire globe? For us to understand what this organization will be, or this platform, we go back to the prophecy in Daniel chapter 2, beginning to read at verse 39. In that passage, King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had a dream, and he summoned people and gave them the hard, ridiculous task of telling him what his dream was and then giving him the interpretation. Of course, the people that surrounded him, the sycophants and the fake false seers that were all around him, could not do it. Eventually, Daniel had to be summoned. And when Daniel came, Daniel gave interpretation to the dream. Daniel told him about his dream and gave him the meaning to the dream. What was the dream all about? The dream was all about a statue, an idol with a head made of gold, with a chest and the hands made of silver, with the thighs made of bronze, with the legs made of iron, with the feet made of iron mixed with clay. And then Daniel saw a stone that was not carved by human hand descend from heaven and strike the image at the place where the iron was mixed with clay until it toppled. Daniel told him in chapter 2 from verse 39, after you another kingdom will rise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything, and as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This got fulfillment, as we can see in the Bible, when the Bible told us clearly the head of gold symbolized the nation of Babylon that took over the Palestinian area and the entire world actually from 608 BC to 538 BC. In 538 BC, the Bible told us about the Medes and the Persians. In fulfillment to Daniel's prophecy, the Medes and the Persians took over from 538 BC to 333 BC. In 333 BC, the Bible told us about Alexander the Great, who was being implied coming from the north. Alexander the Great overran those borders and took over the world then from 338 BC to 180 BC. From 180 BC, the Romans came, the kingdom of iron, and they stayed in power. They ruled the world from that time till AD 500. After AD 500, Rome actually just fizzled out into oblivion, and from that particular time till now, which brings out the kingdom that was mixed. The prophecy of Daniel came to pass, that right in the days of Belteshazzar, King Darius overran the borders of Babylon and took over, before Alexander the Great came, now introducing the time of the Caesars. As at the time of Jesus, the people that were in control were the Caesars of Rome. Augustus was the one that had given the edict that called all people to go back to their places for the census, for which the parents of Jesus went back, and Jesus was delivered at Bethlehem, fulfilling Bible prophecy with uncanny accuracy. Since that particular time, we could see clearly that no nation actually defeated Rome the way the other nations preceding it were defeated and utterly destroyed. Several people in history have tried and made efforts to resurrect the Roman Empire, and all those efforts actually failed, because God that we serve is a God of time. For he had actually said there is a time for everything and a season for every event under the earth. People like Napoleon Bonaparte had tried. People like Ottoman Bismarck had tried. People like Adolf Hitler had tried, and some other people, but the Roman Empire just never seemed to get up. All these efforts were not consolidated into anything significant, even though some will say that the Second World War nearly made the dream and the vision of Hitler a reality. But nevertheless, it still didn't make the score of uniting the whole nations that made up Rome. The area that used to be called the Roman Empire under the Augustus Caesar in 25 BC, if we translate those areas to what we know of the world today, we shall be talking about the area that is called Europe. And we're talking about nations like Ireland, United Kingdom, Portugal, Spain, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Italy, Austria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Turkey, Poland, and Finland and Sweden. Denmark is also included, and all those areas that have been joining together into the European Union. Now, the European Union had been established earlier on, established with the aim for trade, with the aim of uniting the nations that are within that particular sector in issues of mutual gain in trade. But eventually, the same platform that started as an economic platform eventually has been transformed to a union as it is today, having the headquarters in Brussels in Belgium. And it is therefore not with any little surprise that we remind ourselves in the previous teaching when we saw the activities of the Freemasons, when they say that every 13 years they have tried to establish one credible thing with a significance all over the world. And one of the things that we noted was that they clearly stated that the independence of Belgium was one of the things that they had achieved. Why Belgium? The capital of Belgium, Brussels, today hosts the European Union. And within the European Union, this thing was set up by the Club of Rome. The pattern that will eventually emerge, wherein the global economics of the world is going to rest on the shoulders of the European Union, was actually set up by the Club of Rome. The Club of Rome, which is a body that is higher in authority, higher in scope and significance than the Paris Club, the Club of Rome had met earlier in 1974. And in the meeting of 1974, they had already started working on structures to gather the nations of Europe again, to gather the old Roman Empire and grant it the opportunity to rise again. Within that particular meeting, activities, policies, and procedures were set out on the roles that individual nations were going to play in raising up the new, reunited, rejuvenated, restored old Roman Empire. Eventually, another meeting was held, and that was in the 80s. The meeting that was held was led by the Belgian external prime minister, Henry Spaak. And as you can see in this particular picture, all these are members representing European nations, wealthy people who had control over the businesses of their nations. In that particular meeting that was held, Henry Spaak made this statement in order to set off the meeting as a charge to the members that were in attendance. He said, "We do not want another committee. We have too many already. What we want is a man of sufficient stature to hold the allegiance of the peoples of the earth and lift us up out of the economic morass into which we are sinking. Send us such a man, and be he God or devil, we will accept him." This statement was made by Henry Spaak in charging the committee members of the Club of Rome in the meeting that was held. And certainly, he is really making a word of prophecy, for the man that will come to hold the allegiance of the world will not be God, but he will actually be the devil's incarnate, and he will be the son of hell himself, the man of lawlessness, the Antichrist. In the meeting that was held by the Club of Rome, the Club of Rome went forward in the meeting in a way, and they launched a stamp. The stamp that was launched in that meeting, as we see it on the right side on the screen. The stamp is having the Tower of Babel right in the center of it. And then the topic that was put in the stamp says, "Europe, many tongues, one voice." Again, that strikes a chord that draws us back to Genesis chapter 11, when the Bible says that at the Tower of Babel, the whole earth, the people were of one tongue and of one voice. And here is saying, "Europe, though many tongues, one voice." And then the Tower of Babel was put at the background, clearly implying the concept of rebuilding the same project that the Lord scattered by the languages in Genesis chapter 11. Here we find a very significant difference, and the difference is such that within the tower that is being rebuilt, we find a modern construction crane right inside. And we know that in the days of the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 11, this modern technological tool, it was not available as at that time. But we find it being fixed right here within the Tower of Babel, implying clearly that the mode of reconstructing the Tower of Babel, the mode of rebuilding the same project that Nimrod started, will be achieved, but not with crude tools, not with crude, outdated, outmoded, and obsolete building instruments, but it shall be achieved with modern technology. So today we find different cultures all over the world. Each time the Tower of Babel is being depicted, we find the crane by the side. as seen in this particular picture. Our attention is also drawn to the fact that in the stamp we found the pentacles right there on top of it, and we found 11 pentacles, 5 on each side, and one, the largest one, right in the center of them all. But is there anything that had to talk about these 10? Revelation chapter 17 had actually warned concerning the resurrected Roman Empire and the allegiance of the world as at that time, when verse 12 said, "The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for an hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. With him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers." This passage shall be fulfilled at the second coming of the Lord. But here we are seeing the allegiance of the people. We are seeing a gathering against the king. And this gathering has a political tone, in the sense that we are seeing the 10 kings who received a kingdom for an hour, briefly, willingly handing over their authority as kings unto the beast. Verse 13 said, "They have one purpose, and they will give their power and authority to the beast." And this again fortifies the statement that had been made concerning democracy being the platform that will bring in the Antichrist. But the 10 horns, as we saw in this place, how will they be, knowing that the nations of the earth today are more than 10? We have so many countries that have gained their independence in all the continents that we have, and if we begin to count them, certainly there are more than 10. Then the shocking reality comes when we realize that in the meeting that was held by the Club of Rome, as shown here, that the Club of Rome actually partitioned the world into 10 economic regions. And these economic regions, they have recommended that eventually a time will come that these shall have 10 world commissioners and eventually have one world central administrator. We know who this world central administrator eventually is going to be, and that will be the Antichrist. The 10 areas that have been divided here, as we see, we find North America and parts of Canada, Alaska, and all those areas as region number 1. Region number 2 is the area that we call today as Europe, including Britain, France, Italy, and all those nations that are around there. Region number 3, we find it here, and that is in Asia, the Asian Triangle, areas of Japan, China, South Korea, and those people. Region number 4, we find Australia, South Africa falling into it. Region number 5, we find Russia and the areas above Russia, all of them falling within this place. Region number 6, we find region number 6 as South America, including parts of Mexico, Peru, Panama, and all these nations around the islands that are also there included. Region number 7, we find North America, including the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and all those nations that are there. Region number 8 is now Central Africa, including Madagascar, and Nigeria certainly falls into region number 8. Region number 9 includes this part, the lower part of Asia, and those islands that are within the sea, the Philippines, Malaysia, and all those ones. And the region number 10 is inside Asia again, still part of Asia, including nations like India and all those areas. If we look at this division critically, we can see a deliberate way of turning the world into 10 administrative zones, fulfilling Bible prophecy that a time shall come that these people that are going to rule these 10 zones will eventually have power for an hour. But how will it be possible? Today it's already possible, as we are seeing the nations all over the world clustering into smaller unions, and the unions covering larger areas. In Africa, we have the African Union, so it will be easy to say there is a leader of African Union. The United States is already a cluster, South America is already a cluster, and just as we see these divisions, Europe is already a cluster, is already a group. The grouping has already been done, and they are given names and definitions to this grouping. It is therefore with surprise that we are now noticing that the European Union, though the name clearly said European Union, but it doesn't restrict its activities to within the boundaries of Europe. It is called the European Union, but it goes all over the world, dictating issues that have economic relevance and economic significance to different countries all over the world. For instance, the Tribune newspaper in Nigeria, 29th May 2000, pages 32 and 33, gave this report that the European Union is financing a 100 billion naira project with 7 areas of intervention. This was actually reported by the then leader of the Nigerian Labour Union, Adams Oshomole. He reported that the 7 areas of intervention are: 1. Strategic planning and agenda setting. 2. Establishment of pro-democracy network. 3. Establishment of a political lobbying capacity. 4. Establishment of research analysis and information capabilities. 5. Trade union education. 6. Internal trade union democracy. 7. Trade union management. In all these areas, money had been given, and the EU reserved unto itself the power for intervention, that it could come into any of these areas and dictate how things should be done. It is therefore not to surprise that among the third world nations and many other nations, the EU will also be there to monitor elections. The EU will also be there to sanction the budgets. The EU will be there, and it will appear as if they are going into territories that actually are supposed to be outside the confines of the European Union. But European Union will be positioned wherein the global commerce shall be monitored. It had been mentioned about Emperor Nero, who in July 64 AD set fire to Jerusalem, which sparked up persecution wherein many of the church apostles were martyred. Nero was celebrated among the Satanists and the occult as people that had dealt a deadly blow to the Christians. It was Nero that crucified Peter. Peter had been said in the fourth book of Matthias. It reported the account that the elders knew that there was an aim to kill Peter, so they set Peter out of the city gate to flee. As he was fleeing, it was reported he saw Jesus going back into Jerusalem, and Jesus told him, "Since you are fleeing, I'm going back that I might be crucified the second time." Peter got the message and told his Lord that he was going back to continue with his preaching, to continue with the propagation of the gospel. When Peter got back, he continued, but he was arrested. And when they sentenced him to death by crucifixion, Peter required that he should be crucified upside down, that the cross be turned upside down, as he counted himself not being worthy to be crucified in the same way as his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So the cross was turned upside down and Peter was crucified. Today, among Satanists and occultists, they celebrate the victory of Nero over the Christians by turning the cross upside down. And not just turning it upside down, when the cross is turned upside down and the two short arms are again broken in the center, that is called the cross of Nero, just as seen in this particular symbol. It is therefore shocking to realize that the headquarters of the European Economic Union in Brussels, the capital building in Belgium, was shaped after the cross of Nero, as seen in this particular picture. It was this building that it was alleged at the time that there was a supercomputer that occupied several stories, which was named the Beast. Many doubted this, but we should know in this particular teaching the reality of this building being in existence. The European Union is a reality today. Is a forceful reality today, one that cannot be overlooked in any issue that has economic significance all over the world. Even the EU Parliament building in Strasbourg, we can also see how closely related it looks to the Tower of Babel by Bruegel. For us to understand that passage of the book of Revelations, having seen this background of what the European Union is doing, many have thought that passage of Revelation to be difficult to understand and comprehend. But if split into two, according to what was really put there, we'll be able to look at them and analyze them meaningfully in our time. The Bible said that power was given unto the image of the beast to control buying and selling. If we want to really break down this in terms of analysis, we pick them one. How will it be possible to control buying? Anybody that goes out to buy will realize that exchange is made with money. Money is the unit of exchange. To control buying all over the world, the key factor is we should watch out what happens to money in our time. The first thing is that international trade all over the world for a number of years today has been done based on the value of the American dollars. And in going through the teaching in global politics, we saw clearly that the role of America will be to assist the nations to hand over power to the Antichrist, to give their allegiance to the beast. This has nearly been done all over the world, and gradually we are noticing that America is losing its relevance in international circles and spheres. The unit of exchange of the American country is dollar, and this has been an international standard, an international index of global commerce until the euro emerged. And today, international business clearly indicates the euro getting increased, the euro gaining significance at the detriment of the dollar, as implied even in this particular picture that we are seeing. And people have wondered, what is the aim? To understand how things are going to turn out, one must be faced with the reality of knowing that America as a nation will cease to be a superpower for the whole things that have been stated in the Bible to come to pass. Will this be possible? By 1983, the OPEC investments in the United States banks alone amounted up to $500 billion. The OPEC and most of the nations there, as we have already understood, are Arab nations, and yet the monies from the oil are also kept in American banks. What is the result of this? It makes it such that there is huge capitation within the banks. The liquidity ratio is so high, so the American banks could afford a lot of projects in terms of giving loans and assistances and financing projects. This has been that which has been behind the giving of loans, and with the assistance and the counsel from the World Bank, from the IMF, we find the American nation going all out into the third world nations in Asia, in South America, in Africa, to support every humanitarian project. Most of these monies are being given to people that clearly do not indicate a capacity and a potential to be able to pay back. Today, the third world nations alone owe American banks more than $150 billion that cannot be paid back. Apart from this, with so much money in circulation, based on the fact that this oil money and the American banks, it also makes it possible for loans to be accessed by citizens of the United States of America. So we find a lot of subsidies, government assistance, government has aid for the dependable, government has aid for those who are unable to cater for themselves. But report is also that as at the end of 1999 going to year 2000, the federal debt of the United States alone exceeded $1 trillion. And this, one should just think, knowing that Islam operates as an ummah, if there is anything that will make the Islamic nations to call out their money in the hope of maybe putting it in another bank, certainly the banks in the US will be distressed in a very short time. The reaction time will be so small that the collapse will be immense immediately. The economy is hanging on a very thin balance. No wonder Maurice Strong, the president of Earth Council and executive coordinator of the United Nations Reforms, said, "The only hope for this planet is that the industrialized civilizations must collapse. USA today is the leading industrialized nation on earth as at the end of the 20th century. So who exactly was Maurice Strong talking about?" We remembered this particular symbol, which is the seal of the Illuminati, the occult organization that has its roots among the Freemasons, where we saw them stating clearly, Annuit Septis, Novus Ordo Seclorum. We saw how this has been translated into the seal that was adopted by the Constitution of the United States of America. And we also saw this other aspect of the seal, wherein the bird was defined as the phoenix, with the arrows, the fig branch, and the stars that are above. It is therefore not surprising to realize that a proposal had already been made concerning the monetary control in terms of controlling the monies all over the world. For every nation all over the world has its own money, but for buying to be controlled, then monies must also be made common, and a proposal had already been on the ground for the common global money, which is going to be called the Phoenix. A question has been asked: what is the most important money in terms of denomination in Nigeria? The temptation many times is to say 1000 naira or 500 naira or 200 naira. But the truth is, those may be the most valuable monies in terms of denomination. But the most important is the most fundamental. And the fundamental unit of exchange is 1. So 1 naira is the fundamental unit of exchange and is the most important money in circulation. For 500 naira is simply 1 naira plus 1 naira plus 1 naira plus 1 naira up to 500. Without 1 naira, there will be no 500 naira, for it stands on 1 naira. So when we translate the same understanding to the United States of America, the most important currency in circulation will then be $1. It is therefore shocking that when the $1 bill is looked at, these two occult seals are found inscribed on it. Why so? Because the arrangement has been made. The plans have been put in motion to ensure for the collapse of America from every side, from the economic side and from the political side. For the image of the beast to be able to control buying and selling, there must be a system on ground that has the capacity to monitor every single person simultaneously and at the same time. Is this possible? Yes, with the advent of the mega computers. The mega computers, these are computers that, based on their processing speed, based on their huge memory banks, which could take up to story buildings, more than 2, 3, 4, 5-story buildings of memory bank. These memory banks are cooled by liquefied helium because of the massive processions that they are able to do. These are computers that are able to compute in terms of teraflops, and 1 teraflop is 1 billion floating operation per second. And these computers have been designed to operate in 50, 100, 200 teraflops. The population of the earth today is about 6 billion people. If the biodata of 6 billion people is keyed into this computer, as long as the data could be generated and keyed into the computer, in terms of analysis, anything that is needed, this computer is able to process within less than a second. The person that is requesting for the information will just have to be patient for the printers to spew out all the person needs. So today we have the EKA, we have the Grape series operating in teraflops since 1995, designed in the University of Tokyo. We have the Gray series, we have the Janus series. All these are operational in our world today. The NSA building is another building that houses a massive giant frame computer. The National Security Agency in Fort Meade in Maryland has been reported to cover this huge ground as seen in this picture, where all these cars are parked. The cemented ground below it is a huge cavernous hollow, a cavity that had been done on the ground, wherein a single computer is operating and occupying up to 15 acres on the ground. This is a reality today. No wonder we notice the huge downlink stations wherein messages are received, beamed from the satellites that are in space moving. On what programs do these systems run? We have strange things in our world today. When a man, as indicated in this picture, came out and gave a program to the world that many of these computers are going to use to run. Incidentally, this man is a worker with AT&T Bell Laboratory, and he gave this program to the world. And when asked what the program is going to be called, he said the name will be Satan, Satan, Satan. When asked for his own name, he said his name was Beelzebub. And no wonder today Lucent Technologies is on the leading edge. Lucent Technologies owns Bell's Laboratories, but Lucent Technology itself, the name Lucent, has been alleged to mean Lucifer Enterprises. Lucifer Enterprises. And Lucent Technologies is a major company in the information technology arena. It's a major company in global technology, and it's developed the Avaya Lucent phones, which have been operational for many years even before now, making it possible for calls to be made without the encumbering lines. Mobile phones were made, though the handsets were made to look like desktop handsets, but they were to be moved around. That had been developed by the Avaya company long before the GSM phones that are available to the world today. And Lucy Trust, remembering that Lucent Technologies is in existence, we also remember that Lucy Trust, the former Lucifer Publishing Company, is another company that is in the stock market and is also cooperating hand in hand with Lucent Technologies. Of recent, Lucent Technologies bought Alcatel Telecommunications Company, and this was covered even as we see here, the ceremony wherein Alcatel was handed over to Lucent Technologies. These massive computers, how will they be able to get the biodata of everybody in order to be able to monitor and know those who at a particular point in time were worshipping the beast and those who were not? At this point, the GPS satellites come into focus. With the end of the Cold War, with America and Russia showing a higher level of cooperation and integration for world peace and fighting of global terrorism, we find the two nations merging together to have mutual gains from the massive number of satellites that they have already put in space. So the GPS system of the United States with the GLONASS satellites, the GPS type of the Russians, all put together will be covering every single inch of the globe at any particular moment in time. The information from these satellites are beamed down to huge dishes and downlink stations, where these are eventually converted in the underground chambers where information are being analyzed depending on what exactly is being sought for. So the means for control is already here with us. The means for monitoring the entire human race today is made available with the presence of the computer and the unthinkable speed of processing that the modern computers are being developed to do. Another thing that we have on ground that is an instrument for monitoring is the mobile telecommunication handsets. Today, the mobile handsets as we have them are already being developed to work on new technologies that have the ability to keep the user monitored on a global network. The Motorola company had developed the iPulse technology, and in talking about the iPulse technology, the person that designed it in the Motorola company said clearly that the phone that had been designed will be able to know where you are and what you are doing even right now. These are already in place. So today we find the massive usage of the GSM phones, but the truth is that after the rapture takes place, even the handsets shall become deadly traps for those who have been left behind. Some handsets have been developed today based on the revolution we have in optic fiber and in satellite telecommunications. And what we're realizing is even some handsets have been connected to the GPS. With more than 120 satellites in space, it makes it very easy for a handset to be able to connect to the satellite, which uses that to monitor and to be able to make it available onto the user concerning geopositioning here on Earth using the global positioning satellites. These are downloading the information where they are being interpreted in massive underground caverns, as in this one in the picture, being run by the National Security Agency and sometimes the Central Intelligence Agency and many of such security agencies. The revolution we are seeing today makes information so much available that the issue of knowing that the world is moving to a population peak of around 6 billion people is not even a threat in terms of analysis of the biodata of every single person on earth, had even those information were keyed into the supercomputer. In February 1996, Fujitsu Limited, Nippon Telephone and Telegraph Corporation and a team of researchers from AT&T succeeded in transmitting information through an optical fiber at a rate of 1 trillion bits per second. This is the equivalent of transmitting 300 years of newspapers in a single second. This was accomplished by simultaneously sending different wavelengths of light, each carrying separate information through the optical fiber. If it can be integrated into a network, this new technology will make it easy, inexpensive, and incredibly fast to send information such as video and memory sensitive three-dimensional images, and also to be able to process data for which the calculation would have been running in billions of calculations per second. Today, we are witnessing the revolution that has been brought about by the optical fiber discoveries. A strand of fiber optic cable reflects the light that passes through it back into the fiber, so light cannot escape the strand. Fiber optic cables carry more information, suffer less interference, and require fewer signal repeaters over long distances than wires. And that is why we have noticed today, like MTN is laying underground optic fiber all over the world, trying to link all these places in the world. And based on what is known about optic fiber, the optic fiber cables provide an alternative to bulky copper wires in the telecommunications industry. A single pair of light transmitting optic cables can carry over 1,000 conversations simultaneously. Several individual optic cables easily pass through the eye of this needle, as shown in this particular picture. So the system to put in place has been powered by the optic fiber technology revolution, and it is very, very possible to handle that vast amount of information. Another thing that is on the ground in terms of a system for monitoring is the internet. The internet operates as a network. But just as we enter a cyber cafe and we find that there is a central computer that is being operated upon called a server, which no other person should have access to except the operators in that particular cyber cafe. Those that are working in the cyber cafe have all known that anybody could be ascribed to a particular cell or a system which we use to browse, but at a central point where the router is established, it is possible from that point to monitor what each person is doing in his cell or in the system that is using to browse. This particular format or this pattern or design is a smaller design of the network as we have it on the internet, wherein you have different websites connecting together through the activities of the computers. But there must be a central routing system wherein the information could pass through a central point. This has been acknowledged by computer engineers that it is real, and the central point, which is called the hub, at that particular point information could be filtered, and those who have not paid allegiance to the beast will actually be detected and monitored immediately. Another thing that is on the ground again to assist in terms of controlling men are the news media. When we talk about CNN, all these big giants, CNN, BBC, Voice of America, they have the tools based on satellite communication to be able to monitor that which is happening all over the world. But the average person in the street actually believes the information that is given out of these networks. This has led us to a world that is being under scrutiny, a world that is being watched. This has led to clashes among some people, among some human rights activists who think that the Privacy Act rights of the individual is being violated by so many things that are out to do surveillance. One of the programs that have been developed to encourage the surveillance is the Big Brother program. In the Big Brother program, we find people that are chosen from different parts of the world that meet and live in a house together, and within that particular place they live, so many cameras and listening devices are placed at different points and strategic places. They are made to know that they were being watched, and yet they were observed to see those who will neglect such knowledge and still live their lives as if there was nothing. The Big Brother program had been done in different places of the world. The aim of the Big Brother program in psychology is called conditioning, and in conditioning, the aim in this place is to get people to be used to that which they will not have wanted to do or to be done to them. The Big Brother program has been celebrated in different parts of the world, and the same has also come back to Africa when the Big Brother program was done several years ago, and it's still being done. Anywhere it's done, we'll find people who are ready to be free with themselves, even to the point of nudity, even to the point of sexual interactions, knowing that they are being watched. When the Big Brother program took place here in Nigeria, it was reported Endemol Nigeria, in association with Storm Vision Limited and Mnet Africa, has produced the world's most popular reality TV show, Big Brother. The show started on 5th March 2006 and ran for 91 days. 12 contestants from around Nigeria shared one home, while 68 microphones and 24 cameras captured their lives for a continental television audience. In addition to being filmed in Nigeria with Nigerian contestants, Big Brother Nigeria included 80 Nigerian crew who teamed up with 16 South African crew for this massive operation. It was reported that the final was on 4th June 2006, and 26-year-old Kaduna-born Khatum was announced the overall winner after multiple rounds of public voting and contestant elimination. Khatum walked away with $100,000 in cash. The reality of the world under scrutiny has come to us. The surveillance culture is here, and the surveillance is very important for image of the beast to be able to control buying and selling. No wonder we are noticing in the world the development of the technology of surveillance, wherein we find the smallest camera operating today, which is shown in this picture. It could be held by the thumb and the small first finger, and yet this camera has amazing capabilities in terms of precision and coverage. It is a world wherein we are being watched. We have microchips for cameras, and we could compare the size of the microchip with the bit of the pencil. These are realities that we have today. The internet is also there as a monitoring tool, though running on the operating system designed by Bill Gates. Yet the truth is that the world is being watched. The computer is all about the microchips. The computer is all about the integrated circuit. The computer is an electronic device that operates on integrated circuits, and the computer eventually is on the ground. It's a system that is on the ground that has the potential to be able to monitor the entire peoples of the earth. We are still looking at how money will be controlled. For money to be controlled, it is very definite that money has to be converted to a form wherein it will be common all over the world. And the only form wherein money will be common all over the world is when money is converted to electronic cash. The development of electronic cash we can trace back to Mondex International. Mondex is the company that is behind the making of most of the SIM cards that we have in our phones today. MTN, Glo, Celtel, all they patronize Mondex, the company that bid for the SIM card project all over the world. Mondex, when it gets the SIM card project, Mondex hands over the contract to GemPlus. So when you look at your SIM card, especially the early set of SIM cards that were bought, you will find written on them GemPlus. What is the meaning of Mondex? Mondex means monetary dexter, which means money in the right hand or in the right side in French. In 1996, there was an agreement for GemPlus to supply the cards for Mondex. A franchise was bought for Mondex by AT&T and Lucent Technologies. And in April 5, 1999, Tel Magazine talked about the introduction to a consortium of 26 banks, the Smart Card. The Smart Card came and 26 banks in Nigeria were introduced to it. The revolution for being monitored to enhance a surveillance culture has led to the development of the microchip. The microchip is a reality today. And the microchip, the first time when it was developed, knowing that people were going to claim that it represented a violation of the rights of the individual, as at that particular time it was not being implanted in human beings. So to reduce the effect, to cushion the effect and the shock of it, the proposal was first of all made that the microchips should be implanted in animals and domestic pets. So if anybody had a dog, he was supposed to implant the microchip in it, so that when the dog leaves the confines of the particular area of its dwelling, a transponder that the owner is holding will blink to remind him that the dog was out, so that the police will not arrest the animal or get the dog confined. The microchips were put in animals, and these many people found unacceptable. Only for the thing to move to the next stage, it was designed the digital angel. The digital angel was implanted in children. Then the soul catcher was also being implanted in people, and that was able even to read the thoughts based on the waves of the brain. Today, Motorola is the company producing the microchip for Mondex Smart Card. They have developed several implants for humans using the biochip. The biochip today that is most commonly being used measures 7 millimeters of length and 0.75 millimeters wide. It's as large as a grain of rice, and it contains a transponder and a rechargeable lithium battery. The battery is recharged by a thermocouple circuit that produces an electrical current within the fluctuation of body temperature. This is a reality today, and we can see the size of it being held even in this picture. The BT25 2000 is a reality in our world today. The BT25 2000 is a reality today. The microchip is being implanted in people, and again, the Bible said in the book of Revelations that it was to be put, the mark of the beast or the number of his name, to be implanted or to be put in the right hand and in the forehead. It is therefore with surprise when the report came by Professor Warwick, one of the best designers of the microchip of the bioimplant, said that for the implant to be able to function most efficiently, that it is recommended that the biochip is implanted in the right hand, based on the fact that the hand is the most exposed and many people are right-handed, or in the forehead, because the forehead is the most exposed part of the body, to be able to guarantee that the battery of the bio implant will not run out. So today we find this transponder, we find the implantations going on all over the world today. Money as we know it here in Nigeria is the naira, and this is the unit of exchange. So anybody that goes to buy needs the naira for exchange. But for the Antichrist, or for the image of the beast to be able to control trade, money must be converted to electronic cash. It is therefore shocking when we realize the transformation that has taken place in the banking industry, to the point that it is reported in recent years banks have made their services increasingly convenient through electronic banking. Electronic banking uses computers to carry out transfers of money. For example, automated teller machines, ATMs, enable bank customers to withdraw money from their checking or savings account by inserting an ATM card and a private electronic code into an ATM. The ATMs enable bank customers to access their money 24 hours a day and 7 days a week wherever ATMs are located, including in foreign countries. Banks also offer debit cards that directly withdraw funds from a customer's account for the amount of a purchase. Much like writing a check, banks also use electronic transfers to deposit payroll checks directly into a customer's account and to automatically pay a customer's bill when they are due. Many banks also use the internet to enable customers to pay bills, move money between accounts, and perform other banking functions. The reality is here today that money could be controlled. Somebody might be able to have billions or millions in the account, but if at any moment in time the man is lining up in front of an ATM machine, and for one reason or the other the bank keys in instructions into the machine not to serve the people withdrawing more than 10,000 naira, then there is nothing the man will do. Though having millions in the account, he will not be able to access more than 10,000 naira. Money is actually being controlled today. We find that banks have already been instructed to give out these cards onto all those patronizing the banks, and it's supposed to be free. Today, many banks have made laws that there are some withdrawals, there are some transactions that can no longer be allowed to be done over the counter or with the bank booklet. Everybody is advised to get the card. And the ATM machine has become the culture in terms of withdrawal. To encourage people to use the ATM, this advertisement showed dogs who were making withdrawals with the ATM, and the advert posed a challenge when it said, if dogs could do it, how about you? So that everybody will be challenged to go ahead to do it. The debit machines are also available in our world today. We are beginning to notice debit machines, implying that people do not need to carry cash anymore. That in a restaurant, in a garage, in a supermarket, one wants to make an instant payment. Once the debit card is inserted into this transponder, the amount for goods that have been bought could actually be deducted, and it will reflect immediately back to the account where the deduction will be authorized and allowed. Today, the reality of globalized money, the reality of electronic money is here with us, and that is the globalized money which is in electronic form. Money could be controlled. Buying is already being controlled. When the money that somebody has is being controlled, then what he's able to buy is being controlled. These will be very effective tools for the Antichrist to use when he will be able to monitor those who had not taken the mark of the beast. For anybody that misses the rapture and is left behind, it will be a horrible experience. Nobody will be able to have access to medical services unless you have the mark. You will have no access to catering services unless you have the mark. Those that want to flee will be fleeing and maybe will need to refuel at a petrol station. And right there in the petrol station, the person will be told that the transaction will not be allowed except with the mark. The computers have been instructed not to cooperate with anybody without the mark. Eventually, it will be the hardship. Eventually, it will be the situation that will force people to go back and take the mark. That will force people to go back and have this use of the money in electronic form. And when that is done, because the computer is the central thing being used, the allegiance must be indicated by the taking of the mark. So the computer will be able to monitor. And if anybody tried to use an ATM machine while the person had not registered with the one world government, the computer will also indicate, because the programming in the computer will be such that anybody that had not collected the mark, that tried to make use of any particular cache point on the computer, it will be reported immediately through GPS. In understanding this particular passage, we will see clearly that buying is being controlled, and more so when the Antichrist will fully declare his agenda for the world. The next aspect that we saw in that passage is selling. Today in our world, how is it possible to control selling? Nobody can control selling until you control the means of production and distribution. But you cannot control the means of production and distribution because that has to do with ownership of the industry, the production industries and the distribution industries. The tool and the secret to this is the mega mergers and the acquisitions as we see them in the world today. When there is mega merging, when there is acquisition, there is limited ownership of companies. Companies come together, or a company buys out another company because of the establishment of the company stock in the stock market. And one is able to buy a significant number of shares. The person has control over the votings that will be done at any critical time in the company. And the votings will be done such that any particular company that has goods or services to give out will not want to give out the goods and services except to people that have been confirmed to have the mark. So today we see in the world, we see the move for the mergers and acquisition. The mergers and acquisition. For with limited ownership, monopoly will be ensured. And where there is monopoly, then the owner will be able to call the shots, and he'll be able to dictate where and when he wants his goods and services to be distributed. For instance, a few rundown of major mergers and acquisitions that have taken place in our world so far. SPX Corp plus Industry Company General have merged together to form one of the largest spare parts company in the world. Carl Energy has joined together with Meet American Energy Holdings. AT&T has merged with British Telecoms PLC. And remember that AT&T also owns Bell Laboratories. British Petroleum has merged with Amoco. SmithKline has merged with Beecham and Glasgow to form one of the largest drug or pharmaceutical companies in the world today. The British Airways, American Airways, Canadian Airways, Qatar Pacific and Qantas Airways have merged together to form the largest alliance of airways in the world today. The automobile company Ford has merged with General Motors. The Nissan company has bought Renault and the Opel company. The Rover company and the Honda company have merged and they're working together now. Vodafone went to Germany and bought Mannesmann, came to Nigeria and bought Econet, and eventually had it turned to V-Mobile, and eventually had it turned to Celtel, and eventually again had it turned to Zine. We are seeing the margin and the acquisition in our world today. ELF, the petroleum company in Nigeria, has indicated a margin between ELF and Total. Many filling stations all over the nation suddenly woke up to find themselves being bought out by O&O and Corn Oil. Oando and Corn Oil bought out all this. We witnessed in the last year the consolidation of the banks as instructed by the central bank, and we found many banks consolidating together. There is so much capitalization, a fewer banks, so much money in circulation, and yet limited ownership. The insurance companies in Nigeria have also been instructed to go ahead with the margin and consolidation. When we see in Nigeria, we find major companies, some major companies being involved in so many goods and services. For instance, Dangote in Nigeria, we find that Dangote is involved in cement, Dangote is involved in salt, in sugar, in pastas, in flour, in different things all over the world. If Dangote should make a decree that the goods from his company, from Dangote group of companies, are not to be sold in any particular nation that does not have the mark of the beast, it will certainly be a guarantee. It will certainly be carried out. For by the power of monopoly, that instruction will be upheld. Today we are observing Transcorp. Transcorp has been merging, and in Nigeria we have noticed the sales through the agency of privatization, that the goods and services meant for the public, government parastatals, government agencies are being sold to the private sector. And with the corruption in the system, these will first of all be devalued and then eventually sold to a few individuals within the sector. When they are sold, they suddenly become operational again. We have seen even concerning Lucent Technologies and how they have bought over Alcatel telephones. Transcorp that came to Nigeria and bought one of these big hotels. Transcorp is also involved in buying all over the world. In the international platform, Transcorp bought the oil company of Kofi Annan's son. Transoil also bought some of the companies of Saddam Hussein. A typical example of what the limited ownership could do to goods and services is this that we're showing, and that is the scope of operation of Planet Viacom. Planet Viacom today holds the CBS Radio, CBS Billboards, CBS Advertising, Viacom Publishing, Viacom Magazines, the Fine Print Viacom, Movie Theater Viacom, Viacom Video, Themes Park and Live Entertainment Viacom, Movies Viacom, Web Viacom, TV Stations Viacom. All these are in our world today. But the question is, who actually owns Viacom? So when we find meetings being called of the Global Executive Forum, the question we should be asking, the people that go for this, what part of the world do they own? The Bible now told us clearly he will be able to control buying and selling. And from these few explanations, we can see clearly how it will be possible to control buying and also be able to control selling. Some have made speculations concerning the identity of the Antichrist using the numbers, and many have accused the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church as being the mark of the beast, 666. Why so? For they say the name of the Pope is Vicarius Filii Dei, and in the Latin, Vicarius Filii Dei, when the value of the spelling comes out, we find that Vicarius in the Latin spelling, in terms of the value of the letters, comes to 112. Filii comes to 53. Dei comes to 501. And when you add up Vicarius Filii Dei, we have 666. Based on this, many have made the accusation and speculation that 666 is actually the Pope. But in this particular teaching, I would rather not think that it will be a human being as the Pope. There have been other forms in which the number has been used. In some times we have seen FFF. If in the alphabets we give A, we ascribe unto A the value of 1, B the value of 2, C the value of 3, D the value of 4, E the value of 5, and F the value of 6, then FFF actually stands for 666. And these we see even on products all around. We find 555, which is the number that is short of 111, which is 666. We find 333, and all these are forms of the expression of this number. But rather, one of the most startling, the most baffling, and the most significant of these issues of identifying what this number is all about is that which came from the gematria. In the gematria is the Jewish way of ascribing numbers onto the Hebrew letters, and in the gematria there are some particular names and letters for which numbers have been attached. In the gematria, 7 is taken to be the number of God because God rested on the seventh day. 6 is taken to be the number of man, for man was created on the sixth day, and 6 is one number short of 7, indicating that man is falling short of the glory of God. If 6 is taken from the gematria and this is applied to the alphabet as we have it in English, then A is given the value of 6. B is the second letter, it will be given the value of 6 times 2, which is 12. C is the third letter, it will be given the value of 3 times 6, which will be 18. When this is done and the computer is spelled out, what will we find? We find that C is the third letter, 3 times 6 is 18. O is the 15th, 15 times 6 90. M is the 13th, 13 times 6 is 78. P is the 16th, 16 times 6 96. U is the 21, 21 times 6 is 126. T is the 20th, 20 times 6 120. E is the 5th letter, 5 times 6 30. R is the 18th letter, 18 times 6 108. This is the spelling of computer, and by the time it is added, it actually amounts to 666. Is it therefore implying that the computer is 666? It's not the computer as in a particular system. It's not the computer as in a laptop, a desktop, or a mega computer somewhere. No, but the computer generated system, the computer enhanced system, the computer sustained system. It will be a system that is made active by the use of the computer. And Revelation chapter 19 from verse 20 seem to indicate so. For when we look at that which we've analyzed under global religion, we saw that the agent, the human agent that will be responsible for monitoring and organizing the global religion will be the false prophets. We also saw that the human agent that will be responsible for monitoring and organizing the platform of the world politics will be the beast. These two are human beings. So Revelation chapter 19 verse 20 said, "But the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet, who had performed the miraculous signs on his behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped his image. The two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur." Now there is an irony in this place. It is said that the two of them were cast into the lake, but clearly the activities were not just restricted to the two of them. The beast was involved in organizing the kings of the earth against the Lord. The false prophet was involved in organizing a false religion, the Babylon that the Bible talked about in the book of Revelations. But the image of the beast was responsible for enforcing the mark on people, preventing them from being able to buy or sell. And it appeared in this place that the Bible said the two of them, the beast and the false prophet, were the ones that were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur, and not the image of the beast. Why so? This again suggests clearly that the image of the beast was not something that was alive. Remember the passage that we read, it said that power was given unto it to speak. Today we have text-to-speech program wherein the computers are talking, ATM machines are talking, handsets are talking. We find computers being programmed to communicate in text, in speech that people will be able to understand. So the two of them were thrown into the lake of fire. For the third agent in this conspiracy, the image of the beast, which from all indication as we're seeing is a computer sustained and generated system, the computer itself cannot be cast into the lake of fire. So only these two people were thrown into the lake of fire. Today, still talking about trade, the passage in Revelation said he was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that it could both speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark in his right hand or in his forehead, so that no one is able to buy or sell unless he that has the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Knowing that the computer through the gematria amounts up to 666. Another shocking reality today is the instruction by the International Standard Organization. The International Standard Organization, in the declaration in ISO 2000, stated clearly that every manufacturing company will be able to make the universal product code on any company, on any product that is coming out of the factory. This is to assist the product to be computer compliant. The universal product code is a series of lines that we find on modern manufactured products. Each of those lines actually stands for a number. And when we look at the lines, we find at the edges, the two edges, we find two parallel lines that actually strike right down. They get lower than the other lines. We find the two parallel lines in the middle. We also find the two parallel lines at the end. These are called the guard bars, the three guard bars. Each one of these guard bars stands for 6. So if we look at the anatomy of the barcode, it actually implies that every single barcode that's among the guard bars stand for 6 at the edge, 6 at the center, 6 at the right edge, and this is 666, clearly as shown in this picture. It is based on this understanding that it is shocking when we find, as in this particular advertisement on a billboard, people making the incision of the universal product code on their foreheads, fulfilling the words of the book of Revelation, of the mark being taken in the forehead. Revelation chapter 14 from verse 9 says, "A third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark on the forehead or on the hand, he too will drink of the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. He will be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment rises forever and ever. There is no rest day or night for those who worship the beast and his image, or for those who receive the mark of his name." This calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints who obey God's commandments and remain faithful to Jesus. Based on this passage, we are again receiving the understanding of the level of control that shall be achieved by these tools. Nobody will be able to buy or sell except he that has the mark of the beast or the number of his name. With bioplant implantation, as we are seeing today, we are already moving to a world of depersonalized human beings, the world of psychic control, and already 666 is here with us in terms of usage, for we see the number all around. Based on this analysis, it could be seen and ascertained clearly that the control of buying today is becoming a reality, that people's buying potential, buying power is being curtailed by that which could be programmed into the ATM, and that is a computer. Then the sales again is also being affected, in the sense that the companies all over the world are merging together. Ownership is being limited, and when ownership is limited, either through merging or acquisition or through privatization, the power to control that which is being sold is now handed over to the sole buyer or the sole purchaser. And that is what the Bible told us clearly, that the Antichrist will be able to gather Israel and the Arabs onto a table for peace, but in the middle of it, he's going to break it up, and Israel will find itself at the mercy of an unwilling, unbending nation. But before then, before this happens, the rapture would have taken place, and those who are ready, whose robes have been washed by the blood of the Lamb, on whose heads lack no oil, shall leave this evil world to meet with the Lord. The question again is, understanding this teaching, we ask, Jesus is coming back soon. Don't miss it for the world. And if the coming of the Lord is now, are you ready? Are you ready? May God help us in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.